channel. My name is Diana Manowska and I am a certified family law specialist practicing family law in the Bay Area. Today is my highly requested video about spousal support. I have done one, I think, a few years ago, maybe 2017, and it's time to update. All right, so first, how long is support going to be paid for? And I created my list. The length of support depends on how long was the marriage. So if the marriage was under 10 years, and the way we determine the length of marriage is date of marriage and the date of separation. I have another video about the date of separation, but in short, when one party decides to separate and moves out, or if not moves out, then both parties are acting in both cases, whether the person is moving out or not, they're acting no longer as husband and wife. What it means is they don't go out together and they don't introduce themselves as married couple. They don't have intercourse, they don't sleep in the same bed, they don't go on vacations. So that is the date of separation. If the marriage is under 10 years, then the marriage is considered as a short-term marriage. And the length of spousal support is going to be half of the length of the marriage, on average. The code section doesn't specify it in this way, but in most cases, the court awards, if the marriage, let's say, is 4 years, 2 years of temporary support. If the marriage is 8 years, 4 years of temporary support. If, let's say, a marriage is 1 year and the support is supposed to be for 6 months, however, the divorce is so ongoing, the court will extend temporary support for another 6 months or whatever time needed to help the less financially privileged party to go through the divorce process. The reason I mentioned the word temporary support and permanent support is because temporary support is based on current income of both parties. Current income of both parties, when we plug into the DISO master, we'll have a column, gross income. We take only base salary when we plug in the numbers. Child support services is going to argue with me and they're going to say, well, if the bonus is received on a regular basis in a way that is predictable, we put it into the DISO master because we don't want to adjust the income and support don't want to adjust support based on the DISO master calculator, bonus table calculator on every 3 months. For them, it's easier to say, okay, this is the amount and we're going to enforce it and we're going to put a wage garnishment. When we go through attorney's type of way, and we would argue that only base salary goes into DISO master, and then we start putting deductions. Expenses don't matter. So the support is only based on the income. The only type of expense that matters is 401k contributions, employee, not employer, and mortgage interest and property tax. And you can see it in DISO master. It has all the proper lines. If you have a child, then you put number of children and percentage of visitation and calculate child support and spousal support. But for this video, I'm only going to talk about spousal support. So the difference between temporary support, meaning until the divorce is final, when the court signed the judgment, right? The temporary support is granted based on current income. Permanent support, so let's say the marriage is 8 years, the divorce is ongoing for 2 years, the court awards temporary support for 2 years, and after that, for the remaining 2 years, it's called permanent support. Now, permanent support, we're looking at 4320 factors. It's a term that lawyers use. It's a family code section, 4320, that has 14 factors. But the most important 3 factors are number 1, standard of living during the marriage, 2, the ability to pay by the payor and need to receive. So standard of living during the marriage means we look at the average of approximately 3 years before separation, not during the divorce, before separation. So the reason for that is you look at a party who constantly earns more. That's statistically the case. So let's give a very, very bright example. So one party is studying for medical school and is making $70,000 a year. And then they separate and that person starts making 1 million. So the temporary support is going to be based on 1 million type of income, and the permanent support is going to be based on average of the last 3 years before the date of separation, which is $70,000. So we look at the joint tax returns, and if let's say the other side wasn't earning anything, then we have $70,000 as average income, and then that is going to be not for child support but for spousal support. That's going to be average upon which we decide how much the other. So then we say $70,000 permanent support, half of which the other side would be entitled $35,000 if they're not making any money. If they're making $35,000, and then we have adjusted living. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the details that we run when we run long-term spousal support, but approximately $35,000, $40,000 because we calculate adjustment of living expense as well. Living separately is more expensive than living together. And if the other side is making $40,000, no spousal support needed. So we have discussed the length of temporary support. What about the length of permanent support? Well, the length of permanent support depends on whether or not the marriage is short or long term. If it's long term, then it's permanently, meaning it could be terminated after 10 years or 15 years based on the circumstances of the case, and the judge will look into that case whether or not the other side has to work, not. So the termination date is death of either party or remarriage of the receiving spouse, of the remarriage of the spouse who is receiving support, right? And then the other factor could be modifying event when the receiving spouse is cohabitating with someone, meaning romantically living with someone who is supporting that spouse. So what else? We talked about length, amount. We haven't talked about amount. A lot of clients would like to know exactly what the amount is. I cannot tell you exact number or percentage because I have to plug in for temporary support the discipline master. I have to plug in the numbers and the gross income, and then there is a bonus table, and the bonus table can be 7% of bonus or 25%. It will depend on how much are we plugging in, how high the numbers are in the base salary. I have seen it in all kinds of ways. So typically, and I really don't like to say that because it's so different for each case because the income varies so much. Typically it's 35% of the difference. There is actually a formula. 50%, I would say 35% of the difference in income, right? So if one party is making 200, the other party is making 100, the difference is 100, 35% of 100. Don't hold me to it because I have to plug in the numbers. I have to look into a bonus table to tell you exactly what it is. For long-term spousal support, it's different. We look at average of tax returns during the last 3 years before the date of separation, and then adjust the cost of living and look how much each party would be expected to live on. And why I mentioned the 3 factors is standard of living, ability to pay. So if the spouse who's supposed to pay is not working, that's a different story. Or the spouse on the other side who is working and is meeting his or her standard of living, then of course there will be no support. And the court can reserve jurisdiction and still award support 10 years from now when one spouse is not able to work. That's why I like in settlements to terminate court's jurisdiction over awarding spouse support ever again, in exchange for something else. Let's talk about imputation. Imputation is a fancy term to say that we will pretend as if you're making money. So a situation where one spouse is used to make a lot of money and now is paying support and decides not to pay and not to work so that he or she doesn't have to pay. The court has the ability to impute income if it can be proven that that spouse specifically voluntarily stopped working to avoid paying support. It's hard to prove, but it exists. On the other hand, if the receiving spouse is healthy, young, able, and not working, the court has the ability to impute either minimum wage or higher amount of income to the supporting spouse, and the spouse who is the payor, the spouse who pays support, also can hire so-called vocational evaluator. That person, professional, can evaluate the ability of the spouse who is receiving support to make sufficient living. For example, the report could say, after interviewing this individual for 3 hours, 3 times, after doing market research, I suggest that they go and use their degree to educate themselves in accounting and make $100,000 first year, and then $200,000, something like that. And then the court has the ability to impute based on that report. And especially it's important in cases where there are minor children, and so the spouse who is paying support is obligated to pay until they're 18, and the other spouse is not working and is not willing to work. That's where vocational evaluation is suggested, because the California law says that both parents, when there is a divorce pending, both are required, and especially if they have children, to become self-sufficient. I didn't cover one more thing. Now that you listen to all of this and you're sitting back and think to yourself, how am I gonna get my spousal support? Well, I can only speak for California, and specifically I'm practicing in the Bay Area. So what we do is we file FL 300, assuming you have already a case number, meaning you have a pending divorce. If you don't, then you have to file for divorce first to get your case number. It's like your entrance to the system. And then you file FL 300, FL 150, which is your income and expense declaration. If you ask for attorney's fees, then FL 158, 157. I think FL 157 and 158 also has to be filed when you're asking spousal support. I will clarify that right now here. Also, this video is an update to my other video, and I have it will pop up above, as well as in Russian, so it will pop up as well during this video. When you do that, keep in mind that when you file FL 300, that you need to file it with the court and then serve the other side, not yourself but someone else over 18, 16 court days before. And if you are in Marin or San Francisco, keep in mind that 1 day before your assigned hearing date, the court makes a decision between 2 and 4 p.m. a day before. And if you disagree with that decision, and you can check that decision online by going Superior Court San Francisco, Superior Court Marin, tentative ruling, look up the department number you will find on your stamped FL 300, and see what the ruling is. If you do not agree, you have to call opposing side, opposing counsel, if they're represented, if not, opposing spouse, and then the court to let them know that you're disputing the ruling. So that's something to keep in mind because a lot of people miss that and it becomes an order. Okay, so we served 16 court days. The other side has to file and serve their response, FL320, to respond to that request. They also have to file their income and expense declaration. And in most cases, the court requires to submit under seal 2 years of tax returns. Under seal, very important. You don't want to disclose your tax returns and file it with the court directly in public record. And then after that other side filed response, 9 court days before, then you can file a reply 5 court days before. Court days is business days, not including holidays and weekends, to their response. So that's the procedure. Remember to file proof of service, and you can just Google proof of service by mail. I believe it's FL330. And then to make sure that when you show up, the first thing court looks, did you serve your motion, the FL300, to the other side? Otherwise, it gets continued. And the good thing to file as soon as possible your request for spousal support, it goes retroactive. Translation. If you have a hearing, if you file today and you have a hearing date in 3 months, and the court awards $1,000 in support, then he owes you or she owes you $3,000 for the last 3 months. It's called retroactive support to the date of filing. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, call me, schedule consultation. We'll see you soon. Bye.